Hello and welcome to the Idaho Renaissance Fair, Inc. We have with us today a very special guest. Her name is Denice. She is one of our lead members of our acting troupe. She is also one of our leads in how we put together costumes and when our characters need any advice. She is one of our core members, and we are so thrilled to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
What are we talking about today?
Okay, today we are going to talk about accessories, mainly hats, headwear, for our different classes of different Renaissance players. We have from peasantry all the way up to nobility, but there's also including the merchant class. So there's kind of like three groups there. So we're going to start with the accessories, mainly hair coverings, starting with peasantry. We're going to kind of work our way up to nobility.
What time period are we working with?
What time period are we working with? So the Idaho Renaissance Fair takes place in 1492. This is at the beginning of the Renaissance Fair, beginning of the Renaissance, and towards the end of the Middle Ages. Now, because there is some overlap and because, people didn't have a lot of money, a lot of hair coverings and designs for medieval times are still relevant at this time, so especially in the peasantry class. For example, this is a Viking hood. This is a traditional outfit, head covering for basically your average peasantry or lower class.
For men and women?
For men and women.
Really?
Yes.
Was it similar to how you have it? Because it looks like you have multiple pieces that you have stitched together.
Yes, it can be multiple pieces, usually made of linen or wool. It can also be knitted. I knitted this one.
Is it bigger? Is the knitted one bigger than the one that you
The knitted one
have?
is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more masculine because I was like, this is technically my prototype on knitting them. So I'm going to take this one off. And it had multiple functions.
It's almost like a poncho. A little short for a poncho, but it almost looks like a poncho.
Yeah. And it had multiple functions, mainly to keep you warm, but also to keep your head covered. Because at this time, head covering was paramount. When we were outside, we wanted to cover our noggin. The sun would be down. And always I think that's the first thing that gets forgotten. And then you would pull it down when you go inside. First thing that gets forgotten when you're creating your Renaissance outfit is your head. And a lot of people don't.
So the head covering was mainly for protection from the elements.
Yes, mainly for protection from the elements. Later on, it also became a sign of piety. And, a lot of religions, Judaism, Muslim, devout Catholics still cover their hair. It is to show that you are not above God. So that's another reason why we cover our hair.
So you said the other garment, the one with linen, you said that's a Viking?
This is based off of a model of a Viking hood.
Was that something commonly found just in the Scandinavian areas, or did it travel down?
It can be. It also traveled down. Influences from different cultures often continued. This is a more simpler outfit. I can't remember. These all have names, but this one was simple, and then oftentimes this one is the more feminine one. And then you would tie it.
They all seem to have peaks. Is that just because of the design?
It is. It was a more simplistic design to sew. It was just basically two pieces of fabric sewn together, and then decorated with whatever embroidery that you would think would be interesting. A lot of times, different clans, all kinds of things like that, would embroider and add their designs.
So the embroidery was a legit thing that happened at the time, like women and men too.
Oh yes,
would-
embroidery went back all the way. We've seen embroidery all the way back into like ancient Egyptian. It got more elaborate during the Renaissance and beyond, but there are Viking graves that have some linens that have simple embroidered designs.
Now you have orange on the one Viking hood. Is that a historically accurate color? Did they have bright colors like that?
They could. Most colors were derived from plants. Unfortunately, except for like really expensive ones like indigo and purple, which were like bug and metal based. I do believe that indigo was from India, and it was a rock.
So you probably wouldn't have a lot.
So if you are a really rich Viking, you would have that. But orange can be gathered from anything from like lichen or different plant fibers. Greens tended to come from.
Isn't lichen a werewolf?
Lycanthrope.
What is lichen?
Lichen is basically, it's kind of like it's a fungus that grows on trees.
Oh.
So different lichens. You can get a really nice green out of black walnut, and these are what we would use to color fibers. And then like for like blues and other colors, would be more muted, but these colors would come from like rocks or berries, different branches and teas.
So I understand where the linens would come from. Your Viking hood that you're wearing right now is knit. Would they have yarn? Like we're familiar with?
Yeah, they would make all the fiber making has happened for a very long time. Like I said, ancient Egyptian, what they would do is like, it would not be the kind of knitting that we would see today, which is like either two needles or a crochet hook. It would be either nail binding or finger binding, which is weaving through your hands.
So a lot looser knit.
Yes.
But still able to keep you warm.
Oh yes, because it would be made of wool or linen, which are natural fibers. Wool is naturally water resistant. It'll take the water, but then it'll just kind of dry out. It keeps you warm even if it's wet. And linen is the same. Cotton was not a thing as much until later on in the Renaissance and into the New World. It's kind of a New World fiber.
Okay. And that is common for male and female peasantry to be wearing, to have found from the beginning of the Renaissance for what, 200, 300?
Yeah, 200 or 300 years into it, because head coverings would become more intricate as sewing skills would increase, and abilities. I have discovered, because we're also talking about accessorizing on a budget.
Which is all Renaissance participants.
Yes, accessorizing on a budget. This amazing thing I have discovered. These are basically flour sack towels. These were, I'm a Norwegian baker, so I make lefse. These are used for lefse, which is a Norwegian flatbread. But wonderful thing about these, you can create a really good peasant head covering with it. Simply fold it into a triangle. Put it over your head.
It's just like magic.
Yes. And it would cover your head. Now, if you wanted to get a little bit more fancy, you would take another one. This would be hopefully not this dirty. This is your wimple, so you would probably pin this up here, or you could even tie it. So pin it up here, and then you would put another one on top. And then you have a full covering. Now, a lot of this would look really good for a nun.
I was about to say, you look a lot like a nun.
For a nun, or, this would just be straight peasantry. So anything to cover your head.
Called the front piece a wimple.
A wimple, yeah. That's kind of a fancy word for this undercovering. And it would just be simply pinned on with straight pins. Very similar to what a hijab looks like today, which most Muslim women wear.
Very interesting.
So-
And that's a common peasant thing as well.
Yes,
Huh.
because we want to cover our hair. It serves two purposes, and especially if you have colored hair like I do, I can't really see under there, it covers that up. And your bun is also your anchor.
So you can pin it straight to the bun.
You can pin it or wrap it around the bun. Now, when we get further up into the more intricate things, you have things like bonnets. Now, this bonnet.
Which we've seen bonnets all the way up into the 18th century.
Yes,
so.
bonnets were very popular and very simple to make. And again, you would just cover your hair. The neat thing is, you can use these ties instead of tying them around your neck. You would tie them around that bun.
Ah. I think you still see these in some modern religions, like the Mennonites. I think I've
The
seen
Mennonites
a couple.
and some Amish still wear certain bonnets. This would be more of the traditional Renaissance style of bonnet. When we think of prairie, we think of that. So good.
Gives you that wonderful covering, shades your
Yes,
eyes.
covers your head, saves your noggin.
But they didn't really do that for the Renaissance. It was much more like how you
No.
originally had it.
Yes, it was more folded back, so you can get. And the thing is, most of this stuff I basically studied down on programs like Pinterest. You can Google, and
I'm sure TikTok has some things.
TikTok has a lot of wonderful things, and then you just find a pattern and make it. These are super easy, quick and easy to make. It only take like if you're good with a sewing machine, it only takes you a little while. And this would be considered higher class because it is a pattern.
Right. If it was plain clothes, that would be peasantry, so that would be more
Yeah.
merchants.
This would be more of a merchant style head covering, and this would be
Middle
more a middle class, more everyday. And then,
Oh, they had different bonnets for different occasions.
exactly, yeah. And depending on your station, you could actually get your bonnet to match your clothes and your different outfits. Or if you were like a working class in the household, you want to cover your hair.
So it's an accessory. It's like how my wife loves shoes. So
Yes.
she has different shoes for different occasions. They
Yeah,
would have
'cause-
different bonnets.
Yes. Yes, and then simple things like veiling. It's the same thing where you just get yourself a nice veil.
I'm guessing the king died.
Yes, the king died. Get yourself a veil. History.
Wait, would you do that again?
What?
Because I mean, it magically appeared. You just would you do that again for the viewers? The way that you put it on, because it was so fast.
Okay.
And now you can't get it
I
off.
got
Ah,
stuck. I got
sabotage.
stuck. So it's just basically you kind of find the center and you put it on, and then you just.
It's a scarf.
It's basically a scarf, but it covers up your hair.
And it looks great.
Yes.
I mean, that was so fast.
Yes. And then you would add something. In 1492 in Italy, they got crazy. There is a thing called a balzo. This is a balzo. It is basically another head covering. Continues on with the veil. And it was kind of like a halo. So they would wear the balzo, and mostly outside. You can wear them inside. One fun little history note, that the Mona Lisa was considered a little risque
Because she didn't have a balsa?
because she did not have her hair covered.
Oh.
It was a thin veil. If you can see a veil, it was a thin veil, but mostly you saw her hair, which was considered risque. Women did not show their hair.
So,
That was this. A godly woman would cover her hair.
Ah. So this is
Yeah.
something that women only would do. You wouldn't see a man with a balzo.
Men actually did have balzos, but they were a different type, and they were more of a hat. And there is some history that goes from the original medieval hood being rolled up and becoming the Italian hat or male balzo. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
So you made that yourself?
Yes, I did.
Did you have to do all of the beads?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
I would think it probably a couple weeks if I really but I didn't sit down and count the hours and stuff. It was something that I had decided later on to do. It originally was a 2-tiered event that was way too heavy for me because the Italians did they also were called Flemish hoods, other types of hoods, but they got exaggerated especially in the Italians. We love to make ourselves, pretty easy to Italian thing. So, yeah, the balzos got big, and so I beaded it instead to make it, just as rich.
So, would you find less ornate balzos normally, or?
Yes, it all depends on, your station and your abilities, purchase-wise, money-wise, and whether you wanted to spend the money for a more expensive balzo, or something, but you would always have something covering your hair, and of course it would match your outfit. So that's number one thing about a balzo. It's like, and all head coverings for nobility we wanted to match, and gold is definitely a higher class, and nobility.
Would the merchant class have balzos as well?
The merchant class would have balzos. They would be more simplified. A lot of them would have something easier, like a beaded snood.
Snood.
It's a beaded snood. It looks like a hairnet, but it's a snood, and it would go over your head and capture your hair. And this one, I think
the pains of being beautiful.
Yes, it got stuck. Well, the elastic is broken on this one, but this one, and it's basically, my mom made a doily. I put hair covering on it.
Out of a doily. So if you're at like a thrift store or something and you find yourself a doily, you make a head snood out of it.
Yes, you can make a snood. And this can go all the way up to antebellum times or 1700s, where you could just put a elastic over it, over your bun, and cover up your hair.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now, who would be wearing snoods?
Snoods would go from like merchant class. You could actually, depending on the intricacy of it, go all the way up to nobility, but generally this is merchant to peasant. It's just another way to cover up your hair. And I know we're talking a lot about women because I'm a woman. So that being said, men definitely covered their hair. They either wore the hoods. Another popular item is a flat cap, or they call this a pork pie cap.
Pork pie?
Pork pie.
Pork.
Because it kind of looks like a pie. That they would simply wear over their hair to embellish it or make it more fancy. Just add some feathers to it, and feathers were definitely a sign of upper class.
So if you're playing a nobleman, you would have more feathers.
Oh yes, and it's interesting that a lot of cultures, you even go to the Polynesian cultures, that feathers denote hierarchy. That feathers are like, this is the rich stuff, and we would have access to egret and ostrich feathers.
Right, because Africa was just right across the Mediterranean, and there was an active trading going on. In fact, at this time that we're portraying, I believe the Spanish had, because Columbus is leaving soon around this time period.
Yes.
So the Spanish are either at war or just conquered the North Africa area. I can't remember the
at that time the Spanish Inquisition was just starting. They had just expelled, in 1491 I believe, they just expelled the Jews from Spain, And Spain at one point had a very strong Muslim connection. As the term Holy Toledo comes to mind. So, and then they decided to become more pious, more Christian, so they expelled all that element, but it's still there. You can go to Spain now and see a lot of Moorish and Muslim Arabic influences, which continue to influence everything, all the way to what they wore and what the Italians wore. Here's an interesting, quick little thing. This, of course, is a sleep cap, but
sleep, like as in bedtime.
It's a hair bonnet for women, but it works. It works. You can
it's a deflated chef's hat.
Yes, basically it is. That's kind of what it is. You can add fabric from your outfit to this part, to the band. You know, add
more
feathers. And then you're noble. Pretty easy.
And that was for women. That wasn't...
Well, for men and women. Both could wear it. Men definitely wore these types of hats. And they can wear, like, the Robin Hood type hat. They can wear the hoods.
The pork pie.
The pork pie hat. The flat cap. They tended to wear that. You get into, like, scars. Because you got pirates that wear, like... pirate, so wear just a nice scarf over your head. Cover your head. Number one rule.
Right, have your head covered, because no one, from the poorest of the poor to the richest of the rich, went uncovered.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
And then we get into like something that this is German. This is a Goldthab.
Goldthab.
So Germans got really intricate with their head coverings. I have a German Grenache dress. Grenache was Grenache the younger was an artist, and he did some famous paintings. Now a lot of this information that I learned is based off of Renaissance art and history. And the German Grenache was their German Renaissance look. Now, Germany wasn't per se a country. It was a bunch of duchies at the time, but it definitely had a look. And this was the Goldthab, which was the main top that the woman would wear. And then she would wear something on top. Let's see, where's the front? Okay. Yeah. This is a teleberet.
And it just goes on the...
Yes, and men had teleberets too. This is actually the Goldthab was for women only, but the top hat part was something both could wear.
Why?
Cover the head is also a sign of everything when it came to hats, or especially when you go with that. It's a sign of station, and of course it's loaded with feathers. A lot of times it would be fur. Sometimes
especially
it would just
in the
be
north.
Two different colors, some jewelry, and the teleberets can get big. I have seen them that wide, and this was unique to the German Renaissance.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and it's very similar to a flat cap, but it has its very unique features to it.
It looks multi-layered.
It is. It has these different flaps and then this kind of interesting, almost like envelope shape to the top. And it was definitely required to have two different colors. Slashing and cutting was a very popular thing that it started with the clothing, but expanded into headgear.
Where you would see the undersleeve poking through the coat.
Yes, and that was basically showing the more fabrics you had, the richer you were. So it was definitely showing your station. And in the basically in the merchant class and lower nobility, it was all show it till you are it.
Gotcha.
Yes. So we know a very famous family, the Medicis. Okay, they started out as bankers, lower middle class. And by the end of the Renaissance, they were nobility. They were in the papacy.
Wow.
So they worked it. and they, like they said, they showed it. It's like, you get some money, you show it. It's no different. It's funny how we think that things change, but it's no different than having your teeth blinged out, or adding, doing a lot of accessories. Accessories is something that humanity's always loved to do, and showing higher than you are is always what we do.
It makes you feel good to be pretty.
It does. And then you get into something really fun, like a tiara.
Who doesn't like tiaras and crowns?
Yes.
Now, obviously, this is probably not something that you made.
No, this tiara I did not. I do have a crown that I made, but I didn't bring it with me. But yes, mostly it would only be nobility that wear crowns. Although in the 20th century, it became something of the nouveau riche, and a lot of upper class to wear tiaras. Tiaras are, crowns weren't always worn every day. Even nobility would not be wearing a crown every single day.
I believe I've heard the crown jewels that England is so proud of only is worn ever once, and that's for the coronation, and then they're never really ever touched again.
Exactly. What it is that the crown jewels, the casing itself is pretty much the same. That's where the Kohinoor is, but they create a different base for each coronation. So King Charles, our most recent king, had his own version of the crown.
Huh.
So it has the top part, which is usually that cage that everybody thinks of when they think of a crown, which has a lot of jewels, and most of them were jewels that they got on conquests. The Kohinoor was a diamond that was acquired from India, that was continually cut down because they said it was cursed. Yes.
Gotta love the curses.
Oh yes. And and then beautiful sapphires and other things. Pearls, of course, always want to adorn when you're getting up there, because pearls are a sign of richness.
Well, pearls are more of an India discovery, right?
Yeah.
So
well, India and the Greek Isles. I mean, there are pearl divers.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
True.
There are cultured pearls, like freshwater pearls, which are the smaller ones that you would probably see on more merchant class or lower, and then the more expensive pearls would be on the queen, on nobility, just because we want to this is money. It's like, if you think about it, every single pearl, that's like what? Hundreds of dollars.
I have to say, I don't buy pearls.
So,
they're expensive.
Yeah, pearls are expensive, but these aren't.
Which makes sense, because you're literally wearing your wealth.
Exactly, and that's the whole point, is that you want to show your station, your wealth, and to the point to where it got a little crazy, especially towards the end of the Renaissance, or like the middle, during Queen Elizabeth's time, where she thought that people were dressing above their station. So she created something called sumptuary laws. These were laws set up to determine what you were allowed to wear. Like gold, noble, that's a noble color. Merchant can't have gold. And peasants, definitely not gold. Purple, if you weren't noble, if you weren't the queen, you could not wear purple. And people would actually get arrested for this stuff.
Sounds like a power move.
Oh yes, because we wanted to show everybody where we were.
Okay, so be very aware of the colors you choose when you pick a character to portray. And if you pick a noble person, then you probably have lots of, well, maybe not lots, there's some minor nobility that don't have portraits and things that have survived, or multiple of, but if you pick like Henry VIII, we have multiple portraits of him in multiple outfits. His armor.
Yes.
His.
And he would show off his armor because he was virile. He was strong. He was a fighter.
Well, his codpiece sure showed.
Oh yeah, that's where the term "the family jewels" came from, because you would actually put money in there.
If you ever have time, you should definitely do some research into King Henry VIII's armor.
Yes. And he wasn't alone in that, his wife had created armor when she was Catherine of Aragon.
Oh.
When he was away at war, and she had to protect her country. She had special armor made when she was pregnant.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, history's fun. You should definitely
history is
do
a
this.
blast. And accessories are just one part of it, and then we get into like later on, ruffs are 1500s and on.
So you wouldn't find them early Renaissance, but
No.
mid to not even late, because when did the Renaissance technically end?
I would say just before the Reformation, so it's like maybe like 1600s.
Okay.
So a ruff, and these ruffs carried on into the 1700s.
Yeah, you see pictures of kings and queens. I mean, I think, who was it? Queen Elizabeth?
Queen Elizabeth had ruff.
Right.
She had her ruffs and she had her whisks. And the whisks were those big round things, because for her it was all about keeping people away.
Gotcha.
And that's why the dresses got big. That's another reason why the dresses got big. And then you get into into the late, just before the Revolution, Marie Antoinette, her wedding mantua was about 5 foot.
Holy cow.
Yeah, her mantua, and that is a special type of dress, and the width of it.
It's those big poofy A-frame dresses, basically.
Yes. The whole idea was to get that conical shape, and then out. So, yes. But our Renaissance, we are more into the closer knit. If you're looking for good reference for our time period, the series The Borgias, Medici the Magnificent, movies like Ever After, which all us girls love Ever After.
Some of us guys too.
Yeah. And that early time is that reference for those types of dresses.
Okay. Well, are there any other accessories that you wish to share with us?
Not at this time. We will probably have another later on our jewelry and others, jewelry and pockets.
And pockets.
Pockets, another word for like satchels. And things
purses
like that.
And stuff like
purses
that.
And satchels.
Okay. Well, that's something that all of you can look forward to. We really appreciate, Denice, you coming in and giving us this introduction. We are planning on doing some actual do-it-yourself projects, like make your own accessories and things. So hopefully we see you at those times. Obviously, when we do the other accessories, such as the jewelry and the pockets, then we'll definitely see you then. Make sure you leave any questions or comment on what one is your favorite accessory, because obviously there was a whole mess of these. And which one is yours, Denice? Which one is your favorite?
I actually am pretty fond of the gold thumb.
There you go.
Got the pattern off of Pinterest and was able to put it together, and it's just it rounds out my outfit perfectly.
There you go. So definitely make your comment. Which one was your favorite? Which one are you going to be working on next? Or which one would you like to see made? Because we will definitely be continuing this series. And we here at the Idaho Renaissance Fair hope that your history is as fun as ours, and we will see you on the next one. Huzzah!
Huzzah!